The night my mom died, I saw my dad sneak into the hospital morgue. What he was doing there made me gasp. My name is Emma. I am 21 years old, and I live in Ohio. I have brown hair I always forget to brush, a college ID that looks terrible, and a mother who taught me to be kind even when life is not kind back. My mom's name is Linda. She was the softest person I knew. My dad's name is Mark. He is the man who taught me to tie my shoes and also how to spot a lie by watching someone's eyes. I never thought I would need that second lesson with my own father. The night my mom died, the hospital halls felt like a cold school at midnight, too bright and too quiet. Machines beeped like tiny metronomes. Everything smelled like bleach and old paper. I could hear the air vents whisper. It was 2:11 a.m. when I got up from the hard chair in the family waiting room to stretch my legs. My back hurt. My eyes burned. I was wearing the same hoodie I had worn for 3 days. I rubbed my hands together and stepped into the hallway for air. That's when I saw my dad. He wasn't in the ICU where Mom had been. He wasn't talking to the nurse at the desk. He was down the hall, moving fast on quiet feet the way you walk when you don't want people to notice you. His shoulders were stiff. His head was down. He passed the elevators and did not press any buttons. Instead, he went toward a gray door with a red sign. The letters on the sign said, "Authorized personnel only." I pressed myself against the wall and watched. He looked left and right, then pulled a white card from his wallet. It had a blue stripe and a clip, like a hospital badge. I didn't know my dad had a hospital badge. He held it to the silver box. The box blinked green. The door clicked. He slipped inside the morgue. My heart fell into my shoes. I felt cold and hot at the same time. I swallowed and my throat hurt. I told myself to go back. I told myself to get a nurse. I told myself this was not my business. But the door was still swinging. My feet remembered my mom's voice, "Be brave for the right things." I caught the door with my fingers and slid in. It was colder in there. The light was dim and blue, the kind of light that makes everything look like a dream you don't want to have. I could see rows of silver drawers with small labels. There was a metal table in the center and a rolling tray like the ones they use in science class. My dad stood with his back to me, his body blocking a drawer that was open a few inches. He had a black backpack on the floor by his shoes. He took off his coat and folded it like he was at church. Then he reached into the open drawer and pulled the white sheet back a little. I saw the pale line of a wrist. He took my mom's hand. I pressed my shaking fingers around my phone. My breath came out foggy. I could not make my legs move. My dad held Mom's hand like it was alive. He was talking, but his voice was too low for me to hear the words. He reached into his pocket and took out a small ink pad, the kind the bank uses. He opened a folder from the backpack, yellow papers, blue tabs. He pressed my mom's thumb onto the ink. Then he pressed her thumb onto a form. I bit my lip. I could taste blood. He didn't stop there. He slipped off her wedding ring. The gold flashed in that cold, fake moonlight. He slid it into his pocket. He pulled out a tiny pair of scissors and snipped the white band around her wrist. He replaced it with another band, one I realized came from a different drawer. He was switching tags. He was changing who she was. My brain could not make sense of it. My heart could. It cracked. Then I did the worst thing I could do in a quiet room. My phone made a sound, a high little shutter click, a tiny chick. Because my thumb had squeezed the camera by mistake. The sound was small, but in that cold room it was a shout. My dad froze. His shoulders rose. He turned his head very slowly. I stepped behind a rolling tray and held my breath so hard my chest hurt. "Who's there?" he said. His voice was not the voice that taught me to tie my shoes. The tray squeaked under my fingers. A drop of something hit the floor like a clock tick. I stared at the space where the sheet hid my mother's face, and my hands shook, and 1,000 questions screamed in my head all at once. I dared to peek around the tray. My dad looked straight at me. He opened his mouth. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Everything went white in my head. 2 hours earlier, the world still had edges. I was sitting by the vending machines, trying to decide if I could eat stale pretzels without crying. My mom had gone through another hard night. Her lungs kept forgetting how to breathe. The nurse, Megan, had given me a blanket and said, "Try to rest, honey," in that soft, tired voice nurses have at 1 a.m. I had texted my best friend, Kayla, "Still here. I'm okay," even though I wasn't. I had told my dad to go home and sleep. He shook his head and said, "I'm fine." He had not looked fine. My mom had been sick for months. First, she thought it was a bad cough. Then it was, "We need to check something on the scan." Then it was, "We have a plan. It's a long road." She wore a scarf on her head and smiled anyway. She brought cookies for the night shift nurses. She asked the old man in the next bed about his dog. She told me, "Don't let pain trick you into being cruel." She said it like a rule, like, brush your teeth or look both ways. She meant it. Before she got sick, my dad had been working a lot. He sells cars. He is charming. He knows how to say a person's name so it sounds like a gift. He knows how to lean on a desk and nod at the right moments. He can make you feel like you are the only person in the room. People like my dad. People trust my dad. I did too. But when Mom got sick, something strange started to happen to him. He always smelled like new cologne. There was a second phone in his jacket. He used words like policy, beneficiary, deadline. He came home late and said they needed me and didn't say who they were. One night, I found him at the kitchen table with a stack of papers. He moved them when I came in. I reached for one and he said, "Too fast, private work stuff." I saw just enough to catch a word, insurance. Mom walked in at that exact moment and said, "What are we doing?" in her gentle teacher voice. Dad smiled wide and said, "Just looking at bills." Mom kissed his cheek and did not see me watching his eyes. Still, we tried to be normal. We watched old game shows. We took slow walks. On my birthday, Mom insisted on singing even though it made her cough. Dad clapped off beat and made a joke about how 21 means old enough to be bossy. We laughed because sometimes laughing is the only way to keep your heart from breaking out loud. But other nights, Mom's breathing got worse. I learned the hospital's secret map, which soda machine actually worked, which window had the best sunrise, which chair didn't squeak. I also learned that my dad had a voice I didn't recognize. I heard it once when I went to throw away a cup. He was in the stairwell on the second floor, whispering into his second phone. "Tonight," he said. "Yes, I'll handle it. Don't text. No names." Then, softer, "I told you, it's almost over." After that, my brain kept putting puzzle pieces together that I did not want to see. He didn't cry when Mom got bad news. He squeezed my shoulder and said, "We'll get through it," in a voice that sounded like a line from a movie. He asked the doctors about the time of death rules like he was asking about the weather. He kept going to the parking garage to get air. I tried to be kind because Mom asked me to be. I brought donuts for the nurses. I helped a stranger at the coffee machine who couldn't figure out the buttons. I texted Mom's church friend back and said, "We appreciate the prayers." Being kind felt like carrying a candle in a room with no lights. Small, but real. That last evening, Mom squeezed my hand and said, "Don't let your heart harden." Her fingers were cool and light. She smiled with her eyes. It was a small smile, but it was still her. Then her numbers went the wrong way on the monitor, and everything turned into shouting and shoes moving fast. They asked us to wait. Dad put his hand to his forehead. He said, "God, please," but he said it like someone trying on a hat in a store, not like someone talking to God. I wanted to hit him for that. I didn't. I sat. I counted my breaths. I thought about the first day of spring and how Mom used to open every window in the house. The doctor came out later with a face that already told me. He said the soft words, "past," peacefully, "I'm sorry," and the hard words, "time of death," "forms," "arrangements." My ears rang. It felt like my bones were humming. Dad nodded while the doctor talked, then asked a question I will always remember. "When will the paperwork be ready?" The doctor paused. I stared. Dad added, "I just want to make sure everything is handled." I remember exactly how I looked at him. Like I had never seen him before. Like he was a man in a movie and I was audience now, not family. Megan, the nurse, hugged me. She slid a box of tissues onto my lap. "Take your time," she said. "We're here." I cried into my hoodie sleeve until it was damp. When I finally looked up, Dad was gone. I checked the hall. Empty. I checked the bathroom. Empty. I took a deep breath and told myself he needed air. Then, because something inside me would not sit still, I followed the echo of his shoes. That is how I found myself in front of the gray door with the red letters. That is how I ended up in the cold room watching my father press my dead mother's thumb onto a paper and switch her ID band like she was a suitcase at an airport. That is how I heard the tiny camera click that betrayed me. "Who's there?" he asked again, louder now. He took a step toward the sound. His shoes made a soft squeak on the floor. I wanted to stay hidden. I wanted to disappear into the metal and shadows and the cold. But I could feel my mom's rule buzzing under my skin. Be brave for the right things. I slid out from behind the tray because I needed him to see me. I needed him to know that I saw him. His face looked like a mask for half a second. Then it turned into a smile, quick and wrong. "Emma," he said, like he had just discovered a spilled glass and not a daughter in a morgue. "What are you doing in here?" "What are you doing?" I asked. My voice shook. I hated that it shook. He lifted his hands in a little peace sign. "Calm down," he said. This is complicated, sweetheart." "Why do you have a badge?" I said. "Why are you taking Mom's ring? Why did you press her thumb on a paper? Why did you switch her band? Why are you in this room at all?" The questions fell out like pennies. I could not catch them. He looked at the open drawer. He looked at me. He looked at the door. I watched his eyes. They were the eyes of a person counting exits, not a father. "Everything I'm doing is to protect us," he said. "You don't understand now, but you will." I took a step closer to the drawer. My fingers itched to pull the sheet back and put the band back and take the ring out of his pocket and undo the ink and rip up the paper and stop time. "Give me Mom's ring," I said. "Now." His mouth got thin. "Emma," he said in that warning dad way I used to hear when I reached for a hot pan. "Not now." "Now," I said. He reached into his pocket like he might give it to me. Then his other hand darted out and grabbed my phone. I didn't even see him move. 1 second the phone was in my fingers, the next it was in his palm. "Hey." I grabbed for it. He held it up out of reach like I was 5 years old again and wanted the car keys. "No photos," he said. "Nothing from tonight leaves this room." His voice had a sharp edge I had never heard. "You understand me?" The boots in the hallway got louder. A flashlight beam spilled under the door, pale and shaky. "Everything okay in there?" a man's voice called. "Security." My father didn't look scared. He looked annoyed. He leaned toward me, very close. His cologne made my eyes sting. He said, quiet and flat, "If you bring someone in here, if you make a scene, you will ruin everything your mother wanted for you." His breath was warm. "And you will regret it." The flashlight beam pressed against the glass window in the door. The handle jiggled. "Sir? Ma'am? We need to check this room." My dad smiled, the salesman's smile. He turned his head toward the door and called, "Smooth as honey," 1 second. Then he looked back at me and put a finger to his lips. He dropped my phone into the pocket of his coat. I was shaking so hard my knees felt like jelly. I thought of Mom telling me not to let pain turn me cruel. I thought of kindness like a candle. I thought of the way Dad had pressed her thumb to that paper. "Open up, please," said the guard, more serious now. The handle turned again. My dad held my gaze, then walked to the door. He slid the backpack under the table with his foot as he went, like he had done this exact motion before. He straightened his shirt. He slid his stolen badge out of his pocket and clipped it to his collar. The smile on his face looked like something painted on a store window in December. He opened the door. A big man in a gray uniform stood there with a flashlight in one hand and a notebook in the other. He blinked at the cold air brushing his face. "Sir," he said, "this area is restricted." "Of course," my dad said with the perfect blend of apology and authority. "I'm so sorry. I'm Mark Carter. We just lost my wife. The nurse told me I could have a few minutes to say goodbye after they moved her. I didn't know there was a different entrance for family." "That's on me." The guard looked at the badge. He looked at my face. I must have looked like a candle left in the sun. "Who gave you the badge?" the guard asked. My dad laughed a tiny laugh. "Oh, this old thing? I used to sit on the hospital board years ago. I had it in my wallet. I realize now that was a dumb mistake. Emotions, you know. He tapped his eyes like there might be tears. "Sir," the guard said, not smiling. "Please," my dad said, softer. "It's been a long night. I just wanted to see her." The guard looked past him at the open drawer. He looked at the backpack under the table. He looked at me with my hands squeezed into fists and my throat working like I was trying to swallow a stone. "Ma'am," he said to me, "are you with him?" I opened my mouth. That was when I saw the thing that made my ribs ache. In the reflection of the silver cabinets, I could see my dad's hand in his coat pocket. He was gripping my phone. His thumb hovered over the screen like he would press something if I said the wrong thing. A threat without words. I thought of Mom. Not the cold wrist in the drawer. Mom in the kitchen, telling me, kindness is not weakness, it is control. I remembered her telling me that sometimes being kind looks like staying quiet for one more second, so you can think of a better move. "Yes," I said. My voice found a steady line. "I'm with him." The guard frowned. He stepped one shoe inside the room. "You can't be in here right now," he said. "I need you both to step out, and I need to hold that badge." My dad slid the badge off and handed it over like it was a toy he didn't care about. "Absolutely," he said. "Whatever you need." We stepped into the hall. The guard held the door open and peered inside again. He made a note in his book. He closed the door and locked it with a key that looked heavy. He clipped my dad's badge to his belt. "I'm going to make a report," he said. "Please go back to the waiting area. If you have questions about viewing, ask the nurse at the desk." "Of course," my dad said, warm and smooth. We started down the hall. My dad's smile fell off his face like it had been glued on with weak glue. He didn't look at me. He didn't give me my phone. At the corner, past the elevator, there is a little window that looks over the ambulance bay. The snow outside had that weird blue color it gets under hospital lights. A thin woman in a green coat stood near the curb. She was smoking and looking at her phone. She lifted her head when she saw my dad. She lifted a hand. The motion was small, like a secret wave. My dad lifted his chin back. The motion was smaller. He didn't think I saw. I saw. Back in the waiting room, the TV was playing a show with canned laughter. It felt like someone was poking a bruise. My dad sat. I stood. My mom's scarf, folded on my backpack, looked like something sacred. I reached for it like a life raft. "Go home," my dad said. "I'll handle the rest." "The rest of what?" I asked. He looked up at the ceiling like there were answers there. "Paperwork. Phone calls. Things a kid doesn't need to worry about." "I'm not a kid," I said. He smiled with no joy. "You are tonight." He checked his second phone under his coat like a magician hiding a coin. It buzzed. I saw the edge of the screen glow. A text slid across the top in white letters before he cupped it in his hand. "Is it done?" My stomach flipped. He slipped the phone away and stood, like this conversation was over. "Go home, Emma," he said again. I shook my head. "I'm not leaving Mom." "We can't see her now," he said. "They're moving her." "You heard the guard." I did not move. He sighed, long and tired. "You know your mother wouldn't want you to destroy yourself to prove a point." My throat burned. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to pull out my hair. I wanted to smash his phone and drag him back to the morgue and force the guard to open the door and make my dad show the paper and the ring and the switched band. I wanted to do all those things at once. Instead, I did the one thing my mom would have respected. I sat down. I breathed. I stared at the scarf and told myself I would pick the right fight at the right time. We sat in the hum for a long minute. The TV laughed again. Somewhere, a machine beeped a steady beep 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 that made me feel like I was walking on a narrow bridge. Finally, my dad said he was going to the bathroom. He took his coat. He didn't take my mom's scarf. He didn't take me. I waited 60 breaths. Then I stood. I walked to the corner of the waiting room and looked down the hall. He wasn't at the bathroom. He wasn't at the nurse's desk. He was at the service elevator, the one staff uses for laundry and, I guess now, other things. He slid the white card out of his wallet again, even though the guard had taken the badge. This was a different card. He held it to the elevator pad. The doors opened. He stepped inside. And I ran. I ran so fast my shoes squeaked and my hoodie flapped and my heart tried to knock its way out of my chest. I stuck my hand between the elevator doors and squeezed in just as they were closing. He didn't see me. He was too busy pulling the black backpack straps up onto his shoulder. We went down. The numbers glowed 21B. The elevator shuddered and opened into a hallway that smelled like laundry and metal. He moved like he knew the map. He took 2 quick turns, then another gray door, then another silver box, then another green light. He slipped inside. I counted to 3. I caught the door again. Cold air washed over my face. The room was the same. The drawer was still open a few inches, like a mouth too tired to close. The backpack was under the table again, like it had never moved. My dad set it on top of the table this time and unzipped it all the way. He took out a thick stack of papers, a small red stamp, a roll of tape, and a bottle of clear liquid with a blue cap. My skin went hot. My mouth went dry. He pulled back the sheet. "Hey!" a voice shouted behind me. A hand grabbed my shoulder. I spun, hard, my breath gone and my heart exploding upward, and found myself face to face with the same security guard, his flashlight blazing, his jaw tight, and his other hand already reaching for his radio. "Step away from the body," he said. My dad's head snapped up. His eyes went flat and dark. The flashlight swung. The radio crackled. And before I could say one word that would make sense of anything, my dad reached for the bottle with the blue cap and moved fast toward the table. The cap popped. The guard lunged. Something splashed. The cold room exploded into shouting. And that is when the extreme part of the night truly began. The bottle cracked against the metal table and splashed clear liquid across the papers. The sharp smell hit my nose, like nail polish remover and hospital cleaner mixed together. The guard shouted, "Put it down," and reached for my dad's wrist. My dad twisted fast, the way a person moves when they have practiced. The red stamp skidded across the tray and fell with a clack. The clear liquid soaked the yellow forms and bled the blue ink into a cloudy smear. "Don't touch that," my dad barked, voice hard like a slammed door. The guard's flashlight beam jumped around the room. "Hands where I can see them," he ordered. My dad raised his hands, but he took a small step with his left foot and hooked the backpack strap with his shoe, dragging it closer. It was smooth, like he was picking up a dropped pen, not stealing a life raft. "Stop," I said. My voice surprised me. It sounded steady. "You're destroying something. Those papers matter." "Emma," he said without looking at me. "Go wait outside." "No." He smiled once, thin and mean, and then moved. He grabbed the backpack with one hand and swung it up. The guard lunged. The strap slipped. The backpack thumped onto the floor and burst open like a piñata. Forms fanned out, a small blue stamp pad skittered under the table, and a plastic envelope slid across the tile until it tapped my shoe. I looked down. The envelope held a ring. My mother's ring. My heart went bright and white and loud. I bent fast, snatched the envelope, and stuffed it into the front pocket of my hoodie so hard the zipper scratched my skin. My dad saw. Our eyes locked. The look he gave me could have frozen a lake. The guard reached for his radio. "I need another unit in the basement morgue now," he said into it. His voice cut the cold air. "Possible tampering. Subject is male, late 40s, gray jacket. There's a second subject, female, early 20s, standing by." "Copy," a voice crackled back. My dad lifted his palms higher, eyes on the guard. "Officer," he said in that sweet tone I hated now. "Let's all take a breath. My wife died tonight. Grief makes people do strange things. I came to say goodbye. We got off on the wrong foot." "The wrong foot is outside this door," the guard said. He took one slow step toward my dad. "Turn around." Hands on the table. My dad turned. For a second, I thought he would listen. For a second, I thought this might be the part where adults act like adults and rules do their job. But then his eyes flicked to me, one small flick, and I understood the message in them. Don't move. Don't speak. His right hand dropped fast, like thunder after lightning. He grabbed the red stamp off the tray. He slammed it down hard on a wet form before the guard could catch his wrist. The stamp left a messy mark. He did it again. Thud. Again. Thud. The guard grabbed his forearm and twisted. The stamp clattered. Enough, the guard barked. The door burst open. A second guard rushed in. He was shorter, thicker, and breathing hard like he had run all the way down. The first guard nodded once. They moved like a team that had done this before. One held my dad's arm, the other reached for his shoulder. My dad didn't fight. He let them turn him. He lowered his eyes and made his voice small. Please, he said. Please don't make a scene. My daughter's here. He made himself sound like a man who had just made a clumsy mistake. He was not clumsy. He was choosing each move. Cuffs? The second guard asked. The first one hesitated. He looked at my dad's suit, his calm face, his pretty words. He looked at me, shaking, with my hoodie and my red eyes. He made a choice I will always remember. No cuffs, he said. But he's leaving this room now. They marched him to the door. My dad went easy, like a student walking to the principal's office, hands up, mouth soft. At the threshold, he glanced back. Only once. Not at the open drawer. Not at the smeared forms. At me. A look like a promise and a warning at the same time. Miss, the first guard said to me. You too. I looked at the table. The bottle with the blue cap had fallen on its side. Clear liquid puddled under it and made the papers warp like waves. The open drawer, the one with my mom, waited like a breath being held. I wanted to run to her and pull the sheet straight and say I was sorry for the stupid cold and the stupid light and the stupid men with their stupid papers. I wanted to tuck her in and keep her safe from all of this. But two guards and my father and the rules of the world said, not now. I walked out. The door shut with a thick, soft thud. The lock clicked. The hallway lights hummed. The second guard stayed with us while the first went to file the incident. My dad leaned against the wall and rubbed his eyes like a tired teacher. The guard stood straight, hands at his belt, jaw set, watching. We're done here, my dad told me in a low voice that was all gravel. You don't come back to this floor unless a nurse brings you. You don't talk to anyone about what you think you saw. You go home. You sleep. You let me handle this. He spoke like a man giving a speech to a mirror. I'm not going home, I said. I kept my hands in my hoodie pocket, fingers locked around the small plastic envelope that held the ring. It felt like a secret heartbeat against my palm. Suit yourself. He rolled his shoulders and put on his kind face again for the guard. Officer, where would you like us? Waiting room, the guard said. We went back to the bright fake living room with bad coffee and softer chairs. I sat on the edge of a plastic chair and stared at the night news without hearing one word. My dad stood, paced, then sat, then stood again, as if each position burned him. A nurse with curly hair, Ashley, not Megan tonight, came and spoke to me in a gentle tone. Sweetie, a social worker will be here soon, she said. Do you want some water? Do you want a blanket? I'm okay, I lied. You're not, but that's okay, she said. She put a blanket on the back of my chair anyway. Your mom was very kind to us. She kept saying thank you for every little thing. I liked her. It broke me a little that a stranger said that. The nurse touched my shoulder once and left. The low part of the night came like a gray cloud. Paperwork. Forms. The way grief turns into a list. The social worker, Ms. Daniels, sat with me and spoke softly. She told me about steps. About options. About time. She had patient eyes. I was kind to her because my mother would have been. I said thank you even when I wanted to throw the pen across the room. I stepped into the hallway to call Kayla. It was almost dawn. I'm here, she said, groggy and brave. What do you need? Just your voice, I said. Her voice filled my ear like a warm light. I leaned my head against the wall and cried silently into the phone while she told me dumb stories about her cat and her little brother and the time she tripped at Target and a stranger clapped for her like it was a show. When we hung up, I felt like I could breathe again. Small, but real. When I turned around, I saw the woman in the green coat from the ambulance bay standing at the far end of the hall. She wasn't smoking now. Up close, I could see her face. She had sharp cheekbones and tired eyes. She looked like someone who could stand still for a long time. She checked the time on her phone and then slid it into her pocket. She saw me looking and gave me a tiny smile. It didn't reach her eyes. I went back to the waiting room. My dad was gone. My stomach did a slow, sick roll. I looked around, ready for another chase. Then I saw him at the vending machines, arguing with a dollar bill like it was a person who had offended him. I sat again. I slid my hand into my hoodie pocket and felt the plastic envelope. I pulled it out under the blanket, careful and quiet, and peeked inside. My mom's ring lay on the small clear floor like a moon. It had a tiny nick near the underside, a notch I knew because I used to turn it around and around on her finger when we watched TV. I touched the nick through the plastic and felt empty and full at the same time. Something else was in the envelope. A folded strip of paper, thin as a receipt. My pulse jumped. I pinched it with 2 fingers and slid it out, keeping the envelope angled so no one could see. The paper was crisp and smelled like the clear liquid. There were just 4 things on it: a bank name, a box number, a small metal symbol printed at the top that looked like a key, and a date from 3 weeks ago. It was like a clue in a game I hadn't agreed to play. Safety deposit box. I swallowed. My tongue felt like sandpaper. I slid the strip back in, put the envelope away, and zipped my pocket. I thought about the yellow forms on the table. I thought about the red stamp. I thought about my dad pressing mom's thumb into ink and onto paper. Insurance. He had said the word at our kitchen table. He had said beneficiary. He had said deadline. My stomach dropped. I knew what those words could mean when someone was kind. I also knew what they could mean when someone was not. Emma. My dad was back, a small bag of chips in his hand he probably wouldn't eat. He looked calm again. Too calm. I talked to the funeral home, he said. We'll take it from here. You should go home, shower, sleep. I'll pick you up at noon. You called a funeral home without me? I asked. My voice sounded like it came from the bottom of a well. It's what has to happen next, he said. I'm doing what your mother would want. I doubt that, I said before I could stop myself. His eyes hardened like ice on a windshield. Watch your tone. I watched you switch her band, I said, blood rising warm under my skin now. I watched you stamp papers in a morgue. Don't talk to me about tone. He leaned in close again so only I could hear. Listen to me. You don't understand the system you've stepped into. There are timelines. There are forms. There are people who will eat you for breakfast if you put 1 foot wrong. I'm protecting you from all of it. Stand down. I'm protecting Mom, I whispered back. Even now. We stared at each other for a long second. If looks were hands, we would have been wrestling on the floor. The sun finally started leaking into the sky outside. The waiting room windows turned from black mirrors to gray glass. Nurses changed shifts. The guard who had locked the morgue door walked by with a clipboard and didn't look in. The world kept going like nothing had cracked. When the social worker came to find us with a printout and a gentle voice about next steps, I stood up and thanked her and took the page. I acted normal because that was safer for now. My dad nodded and smiled and squeezed her hand like he had just been told about a bake sale. We left the hospital around 7:30 in the morning, the sky the color of wet paper. The air pinched my cheeks. My dad offered to drive me. I said no, I would take Kayla's car. She had left it for me in the lot because she is the kind of friend who loses sleep so you don't have to. He gave me a long look, then shrugged. Noon, he said. I'll come by. Don't, I said. Text first. He smirked, like I had told a joke I didn't understand. Sure thing. We split in the parking lot. He turned left. I turned right. The woman in the green coat stood by a silver sedan near the exit, phone to her ear. As I passed, I heard her say one word that made my skin prickle. Boarding. Not like a plane. Like a board. Like a board of directors. Like the one my dad said he used to sit on. I drove home on autopilot. The city moved around me: buses, dog walkers, kids with backpacks, and I felt like I was inside a snow globe, watching life through glass. At a red light, my phone buzzed. For half a second, I panicked that my dad had somehow reached into my pocket from miles away. But it was a quiet little chime I knew well. My photos sinking to the cloud. My breath caught. The tiny shutter, chick, in the morgue. My phone might have grabbed a photo when I didn't mean to. If it had, and if it had made it to the cloud before my dad took my phone, then the photo might be safe. Not in his pocket. In mine again. A copy in the sky. I pulled into our apartment lot, parked crooked, and ran upstairs. My hands shook as I opened my laptop on the kitchen table. The screen lit my tired face. My cloud account opened. The little spinning circle turned and turned like a coin on the table. Then pop. A new square appeared in the grid. A photo. A cold room. A silver table. The open drawer. The blur of a man's shoulder. The corner of a yellow form with a blue thumbprint smeared like a tear. My whole body shook with relief and fear. I saved it. I saved it twice. I printed it to a PDF. I emailed it to a new account I made right then with a name no one would guess. I sent it to Kayla with no message. I sent it to myself again. I saved it to a flash drive we use for movies. I did not know which of these steps would matter. I did them all because it felt like putting locks on a door while a storm howled. I sat back and stared at the ceiling. My mother had told me not to let pain make me cruel. She had also told me to be brave for the right things. I could be both. I could be kind and brave at the same time. Kind to the nurse, the social worker, the old man with the dog. Brave against my father. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Delete the photo. We see your cloud. I froze. The number had no name. The area code was local. My heart hammered. Another text arrived before I could breathe. Put the envelope back in his coat, or your mother won't be the only one in a drawer. My mouth went dry. I looked around my empty kitchen like someone might be standing behind my fridge. The hair on my arms rose. The green-coated woman. The whisper in the hall. The way my dad never really walked alone. He was not the only one in this. I typed with stiff fingers. Who is this? The typing bubble appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then a reply. Boarding says hello. I didn't know what boarding meant exactly, but I knew enough to be afraid. I took 3 breaths. I poured water and didn't drink it. I slipped my hand into my hoodie and touched the plastic envelope again. The ring pressed back against my fingertips. The thin strip of paper with the bank and the box number waited inside like a spark that wanted a match. Kindness is not weakness, it is control, Mom said in my head. So I spoke out loud to the empty kitchen, to steady my voice. I won't be cruel. But I won't be quiet. I put the envelope in a place my dad would never look, inside the flour canister behind the sugar. I tucked the flash drive into a sock in the back of my drawer. I wrote the box number on the inside of my wrist with a pen and then rubbed it off until only I could see it. Then my phone rang. The hospital. Hello, I said, throat tight. Hi, Emma. This is Ms. Daniels. Her voice sounded different now, thinner. Are you with your father? No, I gripped the counter edge. What's wrong? There was a pause. I heard papers being shuffled. I heard someone whisper to her off the line. She came back on and chose each word like it might explode. There's been a mistake with the transfer, she said. The funeral home just called. When they went to collect your mother. She stopped. My knees felt soft. What? I asked. Say it. They can't locate her body. Her voice broke on the last word. The morgue log shows she was moved at 6:12 a.m. to Holding V for release. But Holding V is empty. The band number on the release form doesn't match her chart. We're looking everywhere, but right now, we can't find your mother. The room tilted. The ring in my pocket felt like it turned to fire. Ms. Daniels kept talking. We're so sorry. Security is involved. We will call you the moment. But her words were far away. My mom was gone. Not just gone like death. Gone like misfiled. Gone like switched. Gone like stolen. A new text buzzed. Unknown number again. You wanted extreme. Here it is. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Then I wiped my eyes with the heel of my hand and looked at the photo open on my laptop, the silver, the drawer, the smeared thumbprint, and I felt my fear turn into something else. Thin at first. Then stronger. Like wire pulled warm. I picked up my keys. I called Kayla. I need you, I said. Say where, she said. The bank, I said, looking at the faint mark still ghosted on my wrist. And then we're going to find my mom. And as I said it, someone pounded on my apartment door. 3 hard knocks that rattled the frame. I froze. The peephole showed a face I knew too well, my dad's. Calm. Polite. Empty. Emma, he called through the wood, voice sweet as sugar. Open up. We need to talk about a photo. The pounding on the door didn't stop. Each knock echoed in my chest. I clutched my phone so tightly it creaked. My dad's voice came again, smooth and calm like a TV preacher. Emma, he said softly, open the door. You're scaring me, sweetheart. Scaring him. That was rich. I backed away from the door, step by step, until my shoulder hit the fridge. My pulse thudded in my ears. I didn't answer. I didn't even breathe. Then silence. A moment later, I heard the faint jingle of keys. He still had a key to my apartment. My brain screamed, move. I darted toward my bedroom and slammed the door, twisting the lock. My phone buzzed again. Kayla. Emma? What's going on? She asked. He's here, I whispered. My dad. He's at the door. He has a key. Call 911, she said instantly. I swallowed. If I call the cops and they side with him, he'll spin it. You know he will. Emma, this isn't a debate. The front door handle rattled. The sound of metal sliding. He was inside. Emma, my dad called out again, voice still calm. We need to talk. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I put Kayla on speaker and opened my window. I lived on the second floor. Not too high to break my legs, but high enough to make it hurt if I jumped. Emma. Kayla hissed through the phone. Go out the back. There is no back. I whispered back. Just the fire escape. The bedroom door handle twisted. The cheap lock shuddered. I yanked the window open, climbed out barefoot, and felt the cold metal of the fire escape sting my feet. My phone almost slipped from my hand. The door banged once. Twice. Then crack. It splintered. Emma, my dad barked. Not calm anymore. Not sweet. The mask was off. I scrambled down the stairs, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my throat. The morning air hit my face. My breath came out in white puffs. I ran barefoot across the parking lot, phone clutched like a weapon. Behind me, I heard my dad shouting my name, then nothing, just the sound of my own heartbeat and the distant hum of traffic. Kayla's car screeched around the corner like a miracle. She leaned out the window, hair messy, eyes wide. Get in. I dove into the passenger seat, slamming the door shut just as she hit the gas. For a long minute, neither of us spoke. The world outside blurred. My chest heaved. My hands shook so hard I could barely hold the phone. Kayla finally said, okay. Tell me everything. From the beginning. I told her. The morgue. The ink. The stamp. The text messages. The missing body. The bank paper. The threats. Every piece spilled out of me like broken glass. When I finished, Kayla stared straight ahead, jaw tight. So your dad's not just some greedy guy messing with paperwork, she said quietly. This is organized. Yeah, I said. And he's not alone. Whoever boarding is, they're watching everything. Kayla's fingers drummed on the wheel. Then we need to get ahead of him. What's the name on the bank slip? I pulled the folded strip from my pocket. Midwest Federal Bank. Box 241B. Where? Downtown. She nodded. Then that's where we're going. We drove in silence. My mind replayed every look, every word from my father. Protecting you. You'll regret it. You don't understand the system. What system steals a body? When we reached the bank, the street was barely awake. People in suits with coffee cups crossed the crosswalks. The world looked normal. It made everything feel even crazier. Inside, the bank air was cold and smelled like carpet cleaner. A woman at the front desk smiled politely. Good morning. How can I help you? I swallowed. I need access to a safety deposit box. Do you have the key or the account number? She asked. I showed her the small paper strip. She typed something into her computer. The little tapping sounds felt too loud. Then she frowned. I'm sorry, she said. That box is listed as private access only. The holder has to be present. Who's the holder? I asked. She hesitated, eyes flicking to a rule pinned on the wall. I can't disclose that information. Please, I said. It's my mother's. She died last night. My father is, I stopped before saying the reason. I just need to know if her name's on it. The woman looked at me with sympathy, then typed again, quietly. She slid a piece of paper toward me, face down. I didn't show you this, she whispered. I turned it over. It said, Holder, Mark Carter and Linda Carter, joint. Last accessed, March 3rd, 1:47 a.m. March 3rd was last night. He was here, I whispered. The woman leaned closer. And he wasn't alone, she said softly. Security footage showed another person with him. A woman. My heart skipped. What did she look like? Green coat. Blonde hair. Tall. Kayla and I exchanged a look. The woman from the hospital. I thanked the teller and stepped outside, shaking. Kayla grabbed my shoulder. Emma, if they were here last night, they could have moved whatever was in that box. But maybe they left something. I nodded. We need to see it. Then we need a court order or a key. I have neither, I said, but I have Mom's handwriting. I took out my phone and opened the hospital photo. The thumbprint on the paper, the smudged ink. It wasn't clear, but it might match the signature she had on her ID. If I could prove forgery, the police would have to open it. I was still thinking when Kayla froze. Emma, she said, look. Across the street, parked by a fire hydrant, was my dad's silver car. He was sitting inside, one hand on the steering wheel, the other on his phone. He looked straight at us. My stomach dropped. He followed us. Kayla's hand gripped the key. Get in the car. Now. We jumped in and drove off fast, turning down a narrow side street. My phone buzzed. A new text. Stop looking. You're alive because of her. I stared at the words until Kayla grabbed the phone from me. We're going to the cops, she said. No, I said quickly. We need proof first. They'll believe him. He's the perfect dad, remember? Everyone loves Mark Carter. Kayla exhaled sharply. Then what's the plan? Find what's in that box. If it was joined under Mom's name, maybe she left something. We pulled into an old diner parking lot to regroup. My head pounded. I ordered coffee I didn't drink. I tried to remember everything Mom said in her last days. Be kind. Be brave. Don't let pain turn you cruel. Maybe she had known something. Maybe she had seen what my father was planning. Maybe this was her way of warning me. I took out my laptop again, searching Midwest Federal 241B access March 3rd leak. Nothing. Then I searched my mother's name. A small local forum popped up. A post from 2 days ago. Does anyone know a woman named Linda Carter? She came in asking about whistleblower protection. She said her husband was hiding insurance fraud inside patient files. She looked terrified. My throat closed. I clicked the username. Anonymous. But the reply underneath said, yes. She said she had proof in a safety box, but couldn't trust anyone yet. Kayla read over my shoulder. That's it, she whispered. That's what's in the box. Proof. My hands trembled. Then that's why she's gone. That's why he. The diner door opened. The little bell rang. I looked up. Standing in the doorway was the woman in the green coat. Her eyes met mine. Calm. Unblinking. She smiled. Emma Carter, she said, loud enough for the room to hear. We need to talk about your mother. Every customer turned to look. Kayla's hand slid toward mine under the table. I whispered, don't move. The woman's smile didn't fade. She walked toward us, step by step, as if she had all the time in the world. You shouldn't have gone to the bank, she said softly, sliding into the booth opposite me. You're making this much harder than it has to be. Kayla whispered, who are you? The woman looked at her, still smiling. Someone who used to work for your mother. She turned back to me. And someone who's trying to save you. Save me? I asked, voice trembling. She nodded. From your father. And from the people he works for. I stared at her. Then where's my mother? The smile vanished. For the first time, she looked human, scared, even. Emma, she said quietly, your mother isn't in a morgue anymore. And if you want to see her again, alive or dead, you have exactly 12 hours to decide who you trust. The diner fell silent. My breath caught in my throat. Because the woman wasn't lying. And that was when I realized my mother's story wasn't over yet. The diner went dead silent. Even the hum of the old refrigerator in the corner seemed to stop. The woman's words, alive or dead, hung in the air like a noose. Kayla's hand tightened around mine under the table. What do you mean, alive or dead? She asked, her voice breaking slightly. The woman in the green coat leaned forward. Her perfume smelled faintly like lilies, soft, strange, out of place. Your mother knew something, she said to me, her tone low. Something about the hospital. About the people funding your father's so-called insurance work. She was going to expose them. I swallowed hard. Expose what exactly? Organ theft, she said flatly. And illegal life insurance claims made on patients who weren't actually dead. My stomach turned. What are you talking about? Your father isn't just a salesman, she said. He's a broker for a black market insurance ring. They target sick patients, mostly ones without family. They make it look like the patients died, file claims, and collect. Your mother found out by accident. She thought she could fix it quietly. By going to the board? I said. She nodded slowly. She contacted me first. I used to be a hospital risk investigator. She told me everything your father was doing. She wanted to turn the evidence over safely. That's what the safety deposit box was for. But they found out she'd spoken to me. Kayla's voice shook. So they killed her? The woman looked down at the table. It's complicated. My heart pounded in my ears. Complicated how? She met my eyes. When I went to the hospital that night, she wasn't dead yet. For a second, I couldn't breathe. What? She had coded twice, the woman continued, but the staff brought her back both times. When your father arrived, she was unconscious. He made a phone call, and 10 minutes later the monitors flatlined. They listed her as deceased at 1:02 a.m. No, I whispered, shaking my head. I was there at 2. I saw the doctor. He said. The doctor was paid, she said. Your mother didn't die naturally. Kayla covered her mouth with her hand. Oh my God. My throat burned. I blinked fast, but tears still spilled out. You're lying, I whispered. You have to be lying. The woman's gaze didn't waver. I wish I was. She reached into her coat pocket and slid a small flash drive across the table. Everything I have is on here, audio recordings, messages, copies of forged insurance claims. The box your mother opened last week was the backup. If your father finds it first, he'll destroy it. If we get there first, you can expose them. But if you take that drive to the wrong person, you'll end up like her. I stared at the tiny black drive. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. Where's my mom now? I asked, voice cracking. The woman hesitated. That's where it gets difficult. Try me, I said sharply. Your mother's body was removed from the hospital morgue before dawn, she said. Someone signed for it under a fake ID, using your name. My heart stopped. What? They used your name, she repeated. Your father forged the paperwork, so if it got traced, you'd take the fall. Kayla slammed her hand on the table. You've got to be kidding me. The woman shook her head. The good news is, I tracked the van that picked up the body. It didn't go to any funeral home. It went to an old private clinic on the outskirts of town. That's where they handle their transfers. What kind of transfers? I asked, already dreading the answer. She met my eyes. The kind where the dead don't stay dead for long. The words made my blood go cold. Kayla whispered, Emma, what if she's right? What if your mom? Don't, I said quickly. Don't say it. Not until I see her myself. The woman stood. Then you'll have to move fast. They're cleaning everything. By tonight, there won't be a trace left. I can get you into the clinic, but you have to trust me. I stared up at her. How do I know you're not part of this too? You don't, she said honestly. But I was there when your mother begged me to protect you. That's why I'm here now. I studied her face, her steady eyes, the faint scar under her lip, the tremor in her hand. Something in me knew she wasn't lying. Or if she was very good at it. Kayla crossed her arms. We're not going anywhere until we have a plan. The woman nodded. There's a warehouse behind the clinic. Meet me there at 9 p.m. Bring the flash drive. Leave your phone. Why? I asked. They're tracking it, she said simply. That text you got boarding says hello? That's not a person. It's a system. They monitor everything your father touches. Kayla frowned. So we just go off-grid? Yes, she said. For one night. It might be the only way to find out the truth. Then she turned and walked out, the little bell over the diner door jingling softly as if mocking how normal everything looked. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the flash drive in my hand. Kayla broke the silence first. Emma, this is crazy. You can't just walk into some warehouse at night because a random woman told you to. She knew things no one else could have known, I said quietly. She knew about the bank. About my name on the release form. About the time of death. If she's lying with precision. Kayla sighed. And if she's not? Then my mom might still be alive. That shut both of us up. We left the diner and drove to Kayla's apartment. I showered, changed into dark jeans and sneakers, and packed a small bag, flashlight, jacket, pepper spray, and the flash drive. I left my phone behind, just like the woman said. At 8:30 p.m., Kayla and I parked 2 blocks from the old clinic. It looked abandoned, gray walls, broken lights, chain link fence half fallen. A single security camera blinked near the entrance. We crept around the side until we saw the warehouse the woman had mentioned. A black van was parked near the loading dock, the same kind used for hospital transports. Emma, Kayla whispered, this feels wrong. Everything about today feels wrong, I whispered back. Then we saw her, the woman in the green coat, standing near the back door, waving us over. We hurried across the gravel lot. You made it, she said quietly. Good. We have to move fast. What's inside? I asked. She glanced toward the warehouse door. Evidence. And maybe your mother. Before I could ask more, she swiped a keycard and the door clicked open. We slipped inside. The air was thick and cold. Rows of metal tables stretched under flickering lights. On some tables lay covered forms under white sheets. My heart clenched. What is this place? Kayla whispered. A holding lab, the woman said. They transfer organs from bodies declared dead to private buyers overseas. Your mother found out the hospital was selling parts of patients before the families even buried them. I felt sick. She walked ahead, scanning each table. She was supposed to be moved here at 6. But if they realized who she was. She stopped mid-sentence. What? I asked. She pointed. One of the sheets was moving. Slowly. Faintly. Kayla gasped. Oh my God. I ran forward before anyone could stop me and yanked the sheet back. Underneath lay my mother, pale, eyes closed, but breathing. Weakly. Shallowly. My knees gave out. Mom? I whispered, grabbing her hand. It was warm. Kayla sobbed behind me. She's alive, I breathed. She's really alive. The woman in the green coat pulled out her phone. I'll call an ambulance. We can't stay here. But before she could dial, the warehouse lights flickered once, twice, and then went black. A door slammed shut somewhere behind us. Footsteps echoed in the darkness. Then a voice, deep, calm, and unmistakable, filled the room. I told you not to make this harder, Emma. My father. Kayla screamed. The woman cursed under her breath and grabbed my arm. Run, she whispered. The emergency light flickered back on, dim and red. My dad stood at the other end of the room, flanked by 2 men in hospital uniforms. He looked perfectly calm, as if he'd expected us all along. You don't understand what you're doing, he said. She's not supposed to be awake. I stepped in front of my mother, shaking but defiant. She's my mom. She's a liability, he said softly. The men started walking toward us. The woman in the green coat pulled something from her pocket, a small pistol, and aimed it at them. Stay back, she warned. One of the men hesitated. The other kept walking. Dad, I said, voice trembling, please. Just stop. He smiled sadly. You really do look like her when you're angry. He raised his hand. The men lunged. Gunfire exploded. I dropped to the floor. The sound echoed in my skull. Kayla screamed again. When I looked up, one man was down. The other had ducked behind a table. My father crouched, his expression unreadable. The woman grabbed my arm. Now, she shouted. We ran toward the side exit. I heard more gunfire, the clang of metal, my own heartbeat pounding like thunder. We burst through the side door into the freezing night air. Kayla followed, shaking and pale. Behind us, my father's voice shouted my name once, raw and furious. We ran until our lungs burned. When we finally stopped, we were in an alley several blocks away. I collapsed against the wall, still clutching my mother's ring. Kayla was crying. The woman in the green coat pressed a hand against her ribs where a bullet had grazed her. "We can't go to a hospital," she said through gritted teeth. "They'll trace us. We need a safe place." I looked at her bleeding side, then at the flash drive still clenched in my hand. "Where do we go?" I asked. She met my eyes. "To the press." "But my mom, she's still in there." Her voice softened. "We'll get her back. But first, we take them down." I nodded slowly. The fear in me turned to fire. If my father wanted silence, I was going to give him the one thing he feared most. A voice. And that was when my phone, hidden deep in my bag even though I'd promised to leave it, vibrated one last time. One message. From an unknown number. "You have until midnight to choose which one survives, your mother or your friend." The night around me seemed to freeze. Kayla looked up, her eyes wide. "What is it?" I couldn't speak. Because for the first time since this nightmare began, I realized this wasn't just about revenge. It was about who I was willing to lose next. The message glowed on my phone screen like a curse. "You have until midnight to choose which one survives, your mother or your friend." I read it 3 times, hoping it would change, but it didn't. The letters just sat there, sharp and merciless. Kayla was kneeling beside the woman in the green coat, pressing her hoodie against the woman's bleeding side. "She needs a doctor," she said desperately. The woman winced. "No hospitals," she breathed. "Please. They'll find us." I crouched down, phone still trembling in my hand. "Kayla," I whispered, "we have a bigger problem." She looked up. "What now?" I turned the screen toward her. Her eyes widened. "Emma, what does that mean?" "It means they're watching us," I said quietly. "It means they know exactly where we are." The woman groaned. "They're tracking the signal." "Did you bring your phone?" I froze. "I thought I left it, but it was in my bag." Her eyes flashed with fear. "You need to destroy it. Now." Without thinking, I grabbed a nearby brick and smashed the phone on the ground. The screen shattered into glittering pieces. For a second, I felt relief until the woman said, "It's too late. They already know." Sirens wailed in the distance, faint but growing louder. Blue lights flickered far down the alley. "They're coming," Kayla said. "We have to move." The woman nodded weakly. "There's a safe house 2 blocks from here. I can make it." Kayla and I each grabbed one of her arms, half carrying her as we ran. My legs felt like fire. Every step hurt. Every sound behind us made my stomach clench. The sirens got louder, closer. We turned a corner and saw a small abandoned bookstore with a faded sign that said "Turn the page." The woman pointed at it. "There," she gasped. "Back door." Kayla kicked the door open, and we stumbled inside. The air smelled of dust and old paper. Shelves leaned crooked against the walls. We lowered the woman onto an old couch in the back room. She was pale, sweating, and holding her side. "Who sent that message?" Kayla demanded. "Who's making us choose?" The woman coughed, blood staining her palm. "Your father's not alone," she said weakly. "He answers to a board. They call themselves the benefactors. They started in the insurance business, then moved into hospitals, pharmaceuticals, even funeral homes. Everything that touches life and death, they control it. And now they're cleaning house." I stared at her. "Cleaning house meaning?" "Removing anyone who knows too much," she whispered. Kayla exhaled shakily. "Then that means they're coming for us." The woman nodded. "You need to make that drive public. Now. Every copy, every file. Get it out before midnight." "I will," I said. "But first, we have to save my mom." She opened her eyes weakly. "If you go back, you'll die." I clenched my fists. "If I don't, she dies anyway." She smiled faintly. "You really are her daughter." Kayla grabbed my shoulder. "Emma, think. You can't fight an entire organization. Let's get the proof out first. Once the world sees it, they'll have to release your mom." I looked at her, my best friend, who had risked everything for me. The one person still standing by my side. The phone's threat echoed in my head again, "Your mother or your friend." I shook my head. No. I'm not choosing. Kayla frowned. Emma. I'm not choosing, I repeated. I'm getting both. I grabbed the woman's phone and opened her camera. The flashlight flickered to life. Kayla, help her stay awake. I'll be right back. Where are you going? To finish what Mom started. Before she could stop me, I ran out into the night. The streets were slick with rain now. Headlights flashed past as I sprinted down the sidewalk. My mind was a storm, fear, rage, grief, all tangled together. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I had to do something. I reached a small convenience store that was still open. The clerk barely looked up as I ran to the payphone in the corner. I fumbled coins into the slot and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? My name is Emma Carter, I said quickly. My mother's name is Linda Carter. She was declared dead last night at Mercy Hospital, but she's alive. She's being held at a warehouse near the old clinic on Grove Street. There are people involved, my father, Mark Carter. He's working with a group. Miss, slow down, the dispatcher said. Are you in danger right now? Yes, I almost shouted. They're coming after us. Please. The line went dead. I froze. Then I heard the payphone's receiver beep twice, and a calm, familiar voice said, You really should have listened to me, sweetheart. My father. I dropped the receiver and backed away. Outside, headlights flared, blinding. A black SUV pulled up, doors opening in sync. Two men in suits stepped out. I turned and ran. I could hear them shouting behind me, footsteps pounding against wet pavement. I ducked into another alley, heart hammering, lungs burning. I didn't stop until I reached the back of an apartment building. A metal fire door stood ajar. I slipped inside and ran up the stairs, every creak echoing in the dark. At the top floor, I burst through the door onto the rooftop and stopped. My father was already there. He stood near the edge, rain dripping off his hair, a gun hanging loosely at his side. His expression wasn't angry. It was tired. Emma, he said softly. You just don't know when to quit. I took a shaky step backward. Where's Mom? He tilted his head. She's resting. She's not in pain anymore. Isn't that what matters? You're lying. He sighed. Do you really think you can stop something like this? The benefactors built everything, the hospitals, the policies, the payouts. Your mother tried to play hero. Look what it got her. She was saving lives, I said, voice breaking. And you sold them. He smiled faintly. You sound just like her. I could feel my heartbeat in my teeth. You killed her. No, he said. I gave her peace. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was whisper, You're a monster. He took a step closer. Maybe, but I'm the monster keeping you alive. They wanted you gone too. I convinced them to wait. Why? Because you're my daughter. He looked at me like that meant something. I can still fix this, Emma. Give me the drive. Walk away. Start over. You don't need to end up like her. Rain dripped from my hair into my eyes. I thought about the morgue, the ink, the lies, the threats, the text. I thought about my mother's warm hand when I found her still breathing. I thought about Caleb bleeding on that couch, still helping me. I met his eyes. No. He frowned. What did you say? I'm not walking away. His jaw tightened. Then you're choosing. He raised the gun. Everything slowed down. The rain. The sound. My breath. Then bang. The shot echoed across the rooftop. For a split second, I didn't know who was hit. Then I saw my father stumble backward, clutching his shoulder. Behind him, framed in the doorway, stood the woman in the green coat, pale, limping, but holding her pistol steady. You're not touching her, she said through gritted teeth. My dad dropped to one knee, blood staining his sleeve. He glared at her. You think killing me changes anything? The benefactors own this city. The woman stepped forward, lowering the gun just slightly. Maybe not after tonight. Sirens wailed again, closer this time, louder. Real police sirens, not fakes. She turned to me. Go, Emma. Take the drive. Get to the press. Expose them before they bury the evidence. What about you? I asked. She smiled weakly. I'll keep him company. I hesitated, then ran toward the door. Behind me, I heard her say to my father, Linda trusted you once. You could have saved her. Then another gunshot cracked the air. I didn't look back. I sprinted down the stairwell, heart hammering, until I reached the street. Police cars were pulling up from both ends. I waved my arms and screamed, "Help! Up there!" An officer ran toward me, but before I could speak, Kayla appeared from around the corner, covered in rain and dirt. She grabbed my hand. "You're alive," she gasped. "So is Mom," I said, breathless. "She's in the warehouse. Call them, tell them to check Grove Street." Kayla nodded and ran to the nearest cop, shouting directions. I clutched the flash drive so hard my knuckles hurt. My dad was right about one thing. This wasn't just about a family anymore. It was about a system. A machine built on silence. And for the first time, I wasn't silent. The cops stormed the building behind us. I could still hear faint shouting, then another shot, then nothing. Minutes later, an ambulance screeched to a halt, lights flashing. 2 medics jumped out. One of them shouted something into a radio. "Victim found female, mid-50s, barely breathing but alive." I fell to my knees. It was my mother. They had her. I looked at Kayla, tears streaming down my face. "We did it," I whispered. She smiled weakly. "Not yet, but almost." The rain started falling harder, washing blood, dirt, and fear off the street. Somewhere above us, I thought I heard my father's voice one last time, soft, echoing like a ghost in the storm. "You'll never stop them, Emma. Not all of them." Maybe he was right. But I was going to try. And that's when, through the chaos and flashing lights, one of the officers ran over holding a soaked envelope. "Miss Carter," he asked. "This was found in the victim's pocket." I took it. My name was written on the front, Emma, in my mother's handwriting. Inside was a folded note. Her writing was shaky, but still hers. It said, "If you're reading this, it means you finally saw the truth. Don't fight them with hate. Fight them with light. Kindness is still power, even in the dark." Mom. I clutched the note to my chest as the sirens faded into the distance. For the first time that night, I let myself cry, not out of fear, but out of relief. My mother was alive. My father was finished. And the storm had only just begun. But I didn't know that the next morning, when I woke up in the hospital waiting room, a new message would already be waiting in my inbox. From the benefactors. Subject: "We admire your courage. Let's talk." When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was the pale morning light bleeding through the hospital blinds. It took a moment to remember where I was: the scent of antiseptic, the low hum of machines, the quiet footsteps in the hallway. For a terrifying second, I thought I was back at the start of it all, the night my mom died. But then I turned my head. She was there, lying in the bed next to me, pale but alive, her breathing steady. Tubes ran from her arms, a monitor beeped softly. Her hair was thinner, her face drawn, but her chest rose and fell. "Mom," my voice cracked. Her eyelids fluttered open. Her lips trembled. "Emma?" I grabbed her hand and sobbed, my forehead pressing against her knuckles. "You're okay. You're safe now. They found you." She tried to speak, but her voice came out like a whisper. "The drive." "I have it," I said quickly. "It's over. Dad's gone." "The police." She shook her head weakly. "No, it's not over." Her eyes moved toward the window. "They'll come back for it." I followed her gaze. A black SUV was parked across the street. No flashing lights. No police markings. Just still. Watching. Kayla entered the room carrying 2 coffees. She froze when she saw me awake and then smiled tiredly. "You scared me," she said. "They said you passed out after the chaos last night." I tried to smile back. "You okay?" "Physically, yes. Emotionally? I need a decade of sleep and therapy." She handed me the coffee. "They're questioning the hospital staff. The woman in the green coat, her name's Elise. She's alive. Barely, but she's in recovery." "Thank God," I whispered. "She told the detectives everything," Kayla continued. "The organ trafficking, the fake death certificates, your dad's connection to the benefactors. They're opening a federal case." It should have felt like victory. It didn't. My mother squeezed my hand again. "They won't let the truth live long." "Then we'll make it too loud to bury," I said. Kayla sat on the edge of the bed. You're not going to rest, are you? I shook my head. No. Mom risked her life for this. Elise nearly died for it. I'm finishing it. That's when my laptop, which I'd left on the counter, chimed softly. Kayla frowned. Please tell me that's not. I walked over. A single new email glowed in my inbox. The sender made my stomach twist. From the benefactors. Subject: We admire your courage. Let's talk. The message body was short. You have something that belongs to us. What happens next depends on how reasonable you are. You'll find an envelope under room 312's door. Read it alone. I looked at the hospital door. Room 312. That was this room. Kayla's eyes went wide. Emma. I ran to the door, dropped to my knees, and there it was, a thick white envelope, unmarked. My heart pounded as I picked it up. Inside was a single photograph. My father, handcuffed, being loaded into an ambulance. But standing beside him, untouched, smiling faintly, was a man I'd never seen before. Dark suit, silver tie, calm eyes that didn't look surprised by the chaos around him. And behind the photo, a note. Mark made mistakes. You don't have to. We can offer you protection, funding, and a fresh start. Return the drive, and your mother walks out of this hospital unharmed. Refuse, and the next error won't be reversible. Midnight. You know where? Kayla read it over my shoulder. They're bluffing, she whispered. I shook my head. No, they're not. We both looked at my mom, her fragile body, her soft breathing. I couldn't let them touch her again. What's the address? Kayla asked. I turned the note over. On the back, scrawled in clean, deliberate handwriting, 241B Midwest Federal. The safety deposit box. They want me to return it where it started, I murmured. Kayla grabbed my arm. Emma, if you go, you might not come back. I can't let them hurt her again, I said. I'll go. I just need a backup plan. Kayla's voice trembled. Then I'm coming with you. I smiled faintly. You're the only person I trust enough to stop me if I do something stupid. By nightfall, we were parked across from Midwest Federal Bank again. The rain had returned, drumming against the windshield. Kayla looked at me. We could call the feds right now, send them this note. They'll be too slow, I said. And the benefactors own half the system already. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket, still wrapped in its plastic casing. If I die, upload this everywhere. Reddit. Twitter. The news. It's encrypted, but the files open automatically once online. Kayla swallowed hard. Don't talk like that. I have to. The clock on the dashboard ticked to 11:58 p.m. I stepped out into the rain. The bank lobby lights were still on, but the doors were locked. Just like last time, the side entrance blinked green when I held the same small key card my mom had given me years ago for emergencies. The air inside was cold and smelled of wax. I walked down the hall to the vault. The same metallic door, the same row of boxes. 241B. It was already open. A man in a dark suit stood there, back to me, holding an umbrella even though we were indoors. His reflection gleamed in the polished steel of the vault door. You're punctual, he said without turning around. His voice was calm, deep, perfectly measured. Where's my mother? I asked. He smiled faintly. Alive. For now. I held up the flash drive. You'll get this when I see her. He turned slowly. He looked older than my father, but there was something timeless about him, like he'd been running boardrooms since the world was black and white. His eyes were almost gentle. You misunderstand, he said. You were never supposed to be part of this. Your mother got emotional. Mark made poor choices. But this, he gestured to the drive, this can all be erased. No one has to know. You killed people, I said. You tried to kill my mom. You turned hospitals into slaughterhouses. He sighed softly. Idealism. It's sweet at your age. People are not prophets. He smiled again, like I'd just told a cute joke. Everything is profit, Emma. Even mercy. Then you'll understand this deal. He raised an eyebrow. Oh. I tossed the flash drive toward him. It clattered across the table between us. You want it? Fine. Take it. But I already sent the data to every major news outlet in the country. The second that drive connects to a new device, the files will flood the internet. His smile faded. I didn't just copy the files, I said. I uploaded them to a scheduled release. If anything happens to me or my mom, they go live in full. He stepped closer. You're bluffing. I met his eyes. Try me. For the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty behind his calm expression. He picked up the drive, turned it in his fingers, and then looked back at me. You really are your mother's daughter, he said softly. And that's a problem. He nodded toward someone behind me. Before I could turn, I felt cold metal press against my neck. A man's voice whispered, "Don't move." My heart hammered. "Kayla," I whispered under my breath. The man behind me froze. What? That's when the fire alarm went off. Red lights flashed. A piercing siren filled the air. Kayla burst through the door holding a can of pepper spray and a phone camera already streaming live. "Smile for the internet, corporate scum," she shouted. The suited man's face went pale. The guard behind me lunged, but Kayla sprayed him square in the eyes. He howled, dropping his gun. I kicked it away, grabbed Kayla's hand, and we ran. "Go," she shouted. We bolted out the side door into the storm. The sirens from the fire alarm merged with the city's real ones as red and blue lights flashed down the street. By the time the police arrived, the building was swarming with reporters, all tipped off by Kayla's live stream. 3 days later, it was everywhere. Hospital scandal exposed, organ trafficking ring linked to insurance giants. Whistleblower family survives attempted cover-up. FBI launches probe into secret benefactors network. They called my mom the woman who refused to stay dead. The footage of the vault, Kayla's shaking livestream, had gone viral overnight. People were horrified, angry, demanding justice. The government opened an investigation. Arrests followed. My father's name was in every headline. He died in custody 2 weeks later. Officially suicide. Unofficially, no one believed that. Elise survived her injury. She was under protection now. So were we. Mom still had nightmares. So did I. But every morning when I woke up, I saw sunlight through the window instead of flickering hospital lights, and that was enough. One morning, a small package arrived at our door with no return address. Inside was my mother's wedding ring, the one my father had stolen, polished, clean, untouched. There was also a note. Just one sentence. Mercy granted. For now. B. I stared at it for a long time, the paper trembling in my hands. "Emma?" Mom said softly behind me. I turned and smiled. Nothing important. But I knew the war wasn't over. The benefactors were wounded, not dead. Still, I had something they didn't, the truth and people who believed it. That night, before I slept, I opened my mother's letter again, the one she'd written in the hospital. Don't fight them with hate. Fight them with light. Kindness is still power, even in the dark. So I did. I told our story everywhere, online, on camera, to anyone who would listen. I used my father's name not as shame, but as a warning. And for every person who said, "The system's too big," I told them about a night when one woman refused to stay dead, and her daughter refused to stay quiet. Because monsters don't survive truth. They survive silence. And I wasn't staying silent ever again.